Well, it's Friday in June, and this is going to be a special edition of the show because I'm dedicating this show to the contributions of our gay, lesbian, and transgender fans, and that influence on grindhouses and 42nd Street in general. Excuse me while I light this up. Eat a little something to take the edge off today. It's been a rough day, or actually a rough week with a bunch of shit going on. But, you know, June is Pride Month, and I wish all my fans, gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever, a happy Pride Month. It was a long time in coming. Being that I'm from New York, I was privy to a lot of things that were going on back then. And in history, I believe it was June 28th or something in 1969, where there was a bar in the village called the Stonewall, and it was a gay bar, and patrons were being harassed by the New York City Police Department. Matter of fact, all gays were being harassed by the New York City Police Department at that time. It was a bad time to be gay, bad time to be anything really. But enough was enough. And full-scale riots broke out at Stonewall and other places. Thousands of people showed up. This sort of turned the tide in favor of the gay community because then they had to be recognized. And the cops had to stop doing the shit that they were doing. There was always things going on, always. But a lot of it back then was down on the DL. There were theaters that, showed gay porn. The Eros 1 was one of them. There was the Eros 1 and the Eros 2. The Eros 2 became the Venus because of confusion, whatever. But again, I take notes down sometimes. The other theaters that were in the area, there was only about 4 of them in 1972. The New David, the Jewel, and the Park Miller, which was the oldest one actually, and the Tomcat Theater. Of course, in time, as we delve deeper into the 70s, there would be more, gay themed theaters that would open up, and emporiums also, because I can remember right across the street from Show World, there was, what the hell was the name of the place? I think it was the Show Place. Pretty sure it was the Show Place. And that was the gay equivalent of Show World. It had go-go boys, it had strip acts, it had peep booths, it had a cruising area, and it also had a complimentary buffet. Around the corner, now here's something where we get into some different stuff going on. Toward the end of the 70s, early 80s, transgendered things were happening. There was a named star, Sulka, who was in a few transgendered videos and loops and things like that. Another star was Magnificent Margot. But that was only the start of the whole thing, because around the corner on 42nd Street, close to the Harem, there was a place called Show Center. And if you didn't know what was going on, the whole first floor was just, the books and magazines, but upstairs was a live peep with transgendered ladies in the live peep. So that had created a whole, audience for, transgendered peeps and transgendered live performances. And of course, the mighty Show World Center decided to take the part of the basement and make it into something they called TV City, where you had, transgendered ladies working the one-on-one booths, and you had peeps, and you had all this other stuff. So it was all evolving back then. And, it was a part of 42nd Street, like I said, anything goes back then. But there was one person who seems to be, lost in the shuffle here, and that person was basically Christy. she was the first gender fluid inductee in the Adult Video Hall of Fame. She also was an actress, a producer, a director, and a video producer. Let's see, she appeared in transgendered videos from 1980 to 2002. She performed at, now this is an interesting thing. There was an infamous club in New York City called Club 82, which was a drag club. And actually my parents went there a couple times. It was like one of the in places to go in New York City, I would guess in the late 60s when this stuff was just starting to come out. She was basically a drag performer. And I don't know what else she did here. But I do remember, you know, the Club 82 thing. I do remember because, you know, and I sell, you know, I'm a porn peddler, of course, back in the day. So I sold transgendered videos and I sold transgendered DVDs because there was a market for them. And honestly, I applauded these women's courage to actually, you know, do what they did before the camera. So, you know, it was all good back then. And it's like, it's spawned into this huge thing today, if you keep up on the adult, you know, video type of thing, where, you know, I had my store, I carried, you know, a small gay section, small transgendered section, and, you know, it was, you know, all good. People came in, they bought what they wanted to buy, and like I said, I have no issues with anybody's sexual preference, gender, whatever, as opposed to some of the bullshits being spewed by my detractors. You know, like I said, some of my best customers at Liquidators on a wholesale level were, you know, gay bookstores that were out of state. These people were very, you know, very nice, very pleasant to deal with, as opposed to some of the dirtbags that I had to deal with. But like I said, I never had any issues with any of this stuff, and if you're in the business that I'm into, you really can't, you know, say, well, I'm only going to sell straight shit because I don't like the rest. Hey, everybody makes a choice in life, and it's your choice to view what you want to view, and it's your choice to be what you want to be. So I applaud anyone for making that choice. But it wasn't only, you know, in adult entertainment where, you know, gay, lesbian, and transgendered people made their mark. I mean, look at John Waters. Pink Flamingos, Desperate Living, all this stuff. You know, he was one of the premier directors, and he's also gay, and he was a huge part of the Grindhouse culture. And of course, you know, we'd be remiss to not mention Ed Wood, who was a cross-dresser, who basically made one of the first transgendered films, Glen or Glenda, which honestly ran for decades on and off on 42nd Street. Along with another, you know, I guess, you know, it's all exploitation, but it's also groundbreaking exploitation, because you had Doris Wishman's Let Me Die a Woman, which explored further, you know, the transgendered phenomenon. And of course, you know, what discussion about, you know, alternative filmmakers, gay filmmakers, would be complete without Andy Milligan. Now, here was a guy who lived and breathed the deuce. And, you know, okay, his horror films are schlocky and sometimes hard to watch, but his sexual films, which unfortunately most of them are lost, were definitely spot on. And also, he made a film that was shot in St. Mark's Baths called Vapors. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but this was a groundbreaking film that, you know, ran in those theaters I told you about, and explored the whole, you know, phenomenon there of the gay bathhouses, you know, how DL it was, people, how it worked basically. It's an interesting film, and of course, it wound up in the hands of Shelley Wilson, who owned Venus, and her frontman, Phil Tadero, was selling bootleg VHS copies in the box office of the Venus for $100 a piece. Which outraged Andy when he found out about it, because he ran in there screaming, where's my fucking film and where's my fucking money? But Andy created, you know, this groundbreaking gay film that played in art houses and things like that, and was rediscovered with, you know, by Something Weird Video and put out by them, and has since been put out by somebody else. I think it's in the, it might be in the box set that came out from Severin. I'm not 100% sure. I got that sitting on my shelves. But, you know, here was a guy who basically immersed himself in the whole 42nd Street, Times Square, and Grindhouse culture, and made films, to show his love of, the whole thing. And like I said, it's just a shame that, some of his better, films like The Filthy Five and Gutter Trash and things like that seemingly are lost forever. But, hope springs eternal. Someday, some collector's going to pass away and they'll be going through his estate and find maybe a pristine copy of that. So, yeah, it's all good. And, like I said, these people made a huge contribution to the porn industry and the Grindhouse culture. So again, I wish all my LGBT friends and fans a very happy Pride Month. Go out and celebrate. It's all good, and I applaud you. I really do. Thank you. And on the project note, I've been having several sit-downs this week with people I'm involved with, and the magazine, which we're going to call Grindhouse Resurrection, should be out, I'm thinking probably early July, late June. We're trying to put the finishing touches on this. See, the thing is that now I'm working with some very competent and conscientious people who don't want to waste any space. As I pointed out earlier in an earlier episode, that Grindhouse Purgatory had a lot of wasted space. And also, basically, were being done by someone who really didn't give a shit about the magazine, unfortunately. But the other thing is, the book I was working on, Two-Fisted Tales of Times Square, which is basically a bunch of fictional stories based on factual events and real characters, we're going to hold that one off for a while because when I got the page count, I wasn't happy with it because I wanted to give you guys more bang for your buck, especially considering fucking gas is over $5 a gallon now and everything else is high. So I really wanted to flesh this thing out to 200 pages. So what's going to happen is, and what I'm hoping happens is, A Whole Bag of Crazy will be reissued probably in the fall, along with the second book, Whole Bag of Crazy 2, for lack of a better title, but I think we're going to call it something else. The first book will be re-edited because it's obvious that certain things were tinkered with, for lack of better words. The Gunfighters of the Drunken Master trilogy will all be combined into one book because I really wasn't down with selling a book that was less than 100 pages for $10 plus $4 shipping. And that might explain why the sales on that book sucked. Honestly, I think it's one of the best things I have ever done, fiction-wise. Jack Ketchum, my dear friend, was really, really into it. He really loved the way it was going. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, combine the three after they get re-edited, and a prologue was written also, combine them into one book for a reasonable price. That way you get more bang for your buck. So that's what's going on the project front. Hopefully, with the books, we'll have them all done by the fall because it's summer. You guys aren't going to sit inside and read. You're outside having fun or trying to enjoy shit, even though prices are fucked up, and this is probably a low ebb in the COVID thing right now, so get out and enjoy it. So that's our episode for today. Enjoy Pride Month, and we'll catch you on the flip side.